The Cosmos Crest Hotel was famous across the galaxy. Its towers sparkled with light that changed color depending on the hour. Hovercars flew around the rooftop skyways, and the lobby stretched wider than a city park. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors filled the grand hall, moving gracefully or awkwardly depending on their species. Some had long, flowing limbs, others had multiple eyes, and a few floated entirely above the ground. Everywhere there was chatter, laughter, and the hum of high-tech machines. In the middle of all this grandeur, a human stepped through the main doors. He was a man in his mid-30s, wearing slightly worn overalls and a cap smudged with grease. His hands were rough from years of work on engines and machines, but his eyes carried a quiet confidence that made him seem larger than he was. This man was Jack Harris, and though he looked ordinary, he was someone important, though no one in the lobby knew it yet. Jack's arrival did not go unnoticed. At the front desk, a tall alien receptionist with shimmering scales and golden eyes watched him approach. Xyrix leaned forward, his long fingers tapping impatiently against the console. His eyes narrowed and a smile twisted across his sharp face. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Xyrix said, his voice smooth but mocking. "A human wearing overalls?" He let out a laugh that carried easily through the lobby. "I assume you are here to clean toilets or polish floors?" Jack smiled politely, tilting his head slightly. "I'm here to check on my ship. Just a quick inspection," he said calmly. Xyrix snorted, the sound like stones grinding together. "A ship? I'm sure it's barely more than a rusty old box. You humans are so cute when you think you belong in the big leagues." He gestured broadly to the lobby filled with aliens in flowing robes and high-tech attire. "Welcome to a place beyond your reach." Some guests nearby glanced at Jack and whispered among themselves. A few chuckled at Xyrix's words, enjoying the performance. Jack, however, remained unfazed. He didn't laugh, didn't argue. He simply nodded and stepped aside to let a floating guest pass. Jack had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. He had faced creatures far stronger than him, machines far more complex than anything the Cosmos Crest could produce, and yet he had always come out on top. Xyrix's words stung only slightly, not because they were true, but because they were ignorant. Walking past the lobby, Jack headed toward the docking bay where his spacecraft waited. It was small by the standards of some interstellar freighters, but it was his pride and joy. Its hull bore scratches and patches from countless journeys, and its engines had been upgraded in ways that few aliens could understand. Even without a shining exterior, Jack knew its true value. As he examined the ship, Xyrix appeared behind him, his movements quick and precise. "So, human," he said, leaning over the railing above the docking bay, "what exactly do you do? Repair your little ship with your tiny hands? Or do you somehow survive in this galaxy without burning to ashes?" Jack wiped a smudge of grease from his forehead. "I fix what needs fixing," he said, "and I make sure it works properly." His tone was calm, almost friendly, but there was a subtle edge in his eyes, like a silent warning. Xyrix laughed again. "I admire your confidence. Most humans would crawl back to their planets and hide, but you're trying to act like you belong here." Jack looked at him steadily. "I belong wherever I choose to be. That includes here." Xyrix's smile faltered slightly, though he quickly masked it. "Very bold words, bold, but meaningless if you cannot back them up." He turned and walked away, leaving Jack to his work. But his curiosity was piqued. Something about this human made him uneasy, though he refused to admit it. Jack began inspecting the ship carefully. He opened panels, checked engines, and ran his hands over wires and circuits. He worked methodically, efficiently, and with an expertise that made even the most advanced aliens pause if they watched closely. A young alien guest floated by and stopped to watch. "Wow," she said softly to her companion. "Look at the human. He's fixing that ship faster than the hotel droids ever could." Her companion frowned. "He's just a human. How can he know so much? They are supposed to be primitive." Jack overheard none of this. He focused on the ship, adjusting a small energy valve and tightening a loose panel. He worked quietly, but every movement was precise and confident. Meanwhile, Xyrix was not far away. He had returned to observe Jack from a distance. His pride would not allow him to admit that a human might possess skill beyond what he expected. But still a small flicker of doubt appeared in his golden eyes. After a few minutes, a small spark flew from one of the ship's circuits. Jack quickly grabbed his toolkit and applied a patch. The spark fizzled out, He tested the engines and they hummed perfectly. "Impressive," a voice said from behind him. Jack turned to see a massive alien with blue skin and 4 arms. Not many beings can handle a vessel like this without damaging it. Jack smiled politely. "It's all about knowing the machine and being patient." The alien nodded and floated away, whispering something to a nearby droid about the human's skill. Xyrix, watching this from the top of the docking bay, clenched his jaw. His plan to belittle the human was not working the way he expected. In fact, the human was drawing admiration from guests already. Jack finished his inspection and wiped his hands on a rag. He straightened his cap and turned toward the lobby. "Everything is in perfect order," he said aloud, as if confirming it for anyone who cared to hear. As he walked back, Xyrix stepped in his path. "Human," he said, voice smooth but cold. "Do you even understand what it means to own or manage anything in this galaxy? This hotel, for example, is no place for someone like you." Jack looked at him directly, without fear. "I understand more than you think," he said quietly. "And I believe in respecting work no matter who does it." "That includes yours," Xyrix frowned. His confidence faltered slightly. You're not afraid of me?" "Afraid?" Jack repeated with a small smile. "I don't see why I should be. Respect is earned, not demanded. Mockery does not impress me." Xyrix's eyes narrowed and he turned abruptly, muttering something under his breath. He had not expected this human to carry himself with such calm and dignity. Later, in the grand dining hall, Jack observed the alien guests enjoying their meals. Some had multiple mouths, some used tentacles to hold utensils, and some ate with thought alone. Jack quietly admired the diversity and complexity of the galaxy he lived in. He had traveled far and seen much, yet he still appreciated the simple things. The way a machine worked perfectly, the hum of engines and the respect between those who earned it. As he moved through the hall, he noticed Xyrix again, speaking to a group of guests. Xyrix waved his hands dramatically, telling the story of the funny human mechanic who had arrived earlier. Jack smiled faintly to himself. He decided it would be interesting to see how this situation would unfold. Jack's calm demeanor, skill, and quiet confidence set the tone for the days to come. While Xyrix continued to mock him, Jack would slowly reveal that humans were more than they appeared: ingenious, resilient, and quietly powerful. By the end of the first day, the alien guests had begun to notice small things. A droid that had malfunctioned was now running smoothly. A hoverlift that had been stuck on the roof now descended gracefully. And in each case, Jack had touched it, fixed it, and moved on without drawing attention. Xyrix, however, felt the first prick of doubt. How could a human, a so-called mechanic, perform feats that challenged the hotel's advanced technology? Pride and arrogance mixed with fear, leaving Xyrix restless and uncertain. Jack returned to his quarters that evening, not grand but neat and functional. He cleaned his tools, made a small repair to his personal shuttle, and reflected on the day. The galaxy was full of strange creatures, complex machines, and endless challenges. But humans, he thought, had a way of turning even small skills into something remarkable. And tomorrow he would show just a little more. The morning sun, or whatever passed for sunlight in the Cosmos Crest Hotel, shone across the towering spires of the intergalactic hub. The hotel was alive with motion. Guests floated, walked, or teleported through the halls, their conversation a mix of strange clicks, melodic hums, and spoken words that varied in tone and volume. Jack Harris emerged from his quarters carrying a small toolkit. His overalls were already a little stained from yesterday, but his calm and confident demeanor made him seem like he belonged here, despite the whispered mockery of Xyrix the receptionist. Jack's first stop was the hover lift bank, where guests had been complaining about elevators that refused to ascend properly. The lifts shuddered and groaned, trapped somewhere between floors. A trio of floating alien diplomats hovered anxiously nearby, their multiple arms gesturing in frustration. "Ah, you again," Xyrix sneered, appearing seemingly out of nowhere. His scales shimmered with irritation. "Do you plan to touch every machine in this hotel? Or is your human curiosity endless?" Jack smiled politely. "I just make sure everything works. That's all." "Everything works?" Xyrix laughed. "I highly doubt it." Jack knelt before the lift's energy panel. His fingers moved quickly, checking circuits, adjusting power flows, and replacing a tiny conduit that had worn out. Within moments, the lift hummed smoothly. Jack pressed a button and it glided upward without hesitation. The alien diplomats gasped in admiration. "Remarkable," one said, her voice soft but sincere. "This is far faster than the hotel's standard service." Xyrix's jaw tightened. He stepped closer. "It's just a lucky fix. Anyone could have done it." Jack looked up, calm as ever. "Luck doesn't make broken parts work. Knowledge does." Even as he spoke, another minor malfunction caught his attention. A hovering service drone had erratic movement and was bumping into walls. Jack knelt beside it, examining its circuits. With a few precise adjustments and a realignment of its energy core, the drone hovered steadily and began moving on its pre-programmed route, performing its tasks efficiently. The guests watching were amazed. Even Xyrix felt the prick of doubt, though he refused to show it. "Curious," he muttered, "that a mere human can handle machines designed by top alien engineers." Jack finished his work and dusted off his hands. "It's all about understanding the machine, not its maker," he said lightly. Then, without waiting for a response, he moved down the corridor to check on another minor issue: the energy gates controlling room access. The gates were flickering intermittently, preventing guests from entering their rooms smoothly. A nervous hotel attendant hovered nearby, unsure what to do. "I've tried everything," she admitted. "I can't fix it." Jack knelt by the gate, studying the energy matrix. His fingers traced delicate circuits and he muttered instructions quietly to himself. He adjusted a power regulator, rerouted a control signal, and replaced a small connector. Instantly, the gate stabilized, its glow steady and welcoming. The attendant gasped. "How did you do that?" Jack smiled. "Every problem has a solution. You just need to understand it." Xyrix appeared behind the attendant, arms crossed. He forced a smile, trying to mask his growing unease. "Humans," he said slowly, "always acting as if they are more capable than they are." Jack didn't respond. He simply moved on to his next task. By mid-morning, word had spread. Guests were whispering in admiration as they passed him. "The human, he fixed the lifts," said one alien quietly. "And the drones. Have you seen?" "Impressive," another replied. "I thought humans were primitive, but this one is extraordinary." Jack remained modest. He didn't need praise. For him, the work was its own reward. Meanwhile, Xyrix's irritation grew. His pride would not allow him to admit that the human was exceptional. He watched silently, attempting to find a flaw, but every attempt he made to undermine Jack failed. The human seemed to anticipate every problem, fixing it swiftly without fuss. Later, Jack approached the kitchen and service areas. The hotel had several robotic chefs and assistants, but one of the high-end meal distributors was failing, dropping trays and spilling drinks. The staff had tried to fix it, but nothing worked. Jack crouched beside the malfunctioning unit, analyzing the circuits and mechanical connections. He replaced a misaligned actuator and adjusted the timing of the delivery arms. Within minutes, the trays moved smoothly and drinks were delivered without spilling. The chefs and staff stared in awe. "I've never seen anyone do that so fast," one said. "It's like he's part of the machine itself." Xyrix, standing at the edge of the kitchen, gritted his teeth. His confidence was fading, replaced by frustration. He had planned to make Jack feel small, but the human only seemed to grow in presence with every task he completed. By afternoon, the hotel's daily operations were running smoother than they had in months. The lifts, drones, energy gates, and service robots all functioned perfectly, thanks to Jack's quiet intervention. Guests were satisfied, staff were relieved, and Xyrix felt increasingly uncomfortable. Still, Xyrix tried one final tactic: direct confrontation. He stepped forward, arms spread dramatically. "Human," he said loudly, ensuring everyone nearby could hear. "You may be able to handle simple machines, but this grand hotel, is far beyond your reach. You should leave before you embarrass yourself further." Jack paused and looked at him calmly. "I fix what needs fixing. If that embarrasses anyone, it's not my concern." The lobby grew quiet. Guests and staff stared at the exchange. Xyrix's face grew red, scales shimmering with agitation. For once, he had no quick retort. Jack continued, his voice steady and polite. "This hotel is a wonderful place. I admire it. I help because it should function well for everyone, guests, staff, and visitors alike. That's all." A few alien guests whispered among themselves. "This human, he is unlike any we have seen. Calm, precise, confident, and kind." Cyrix realized that mocking him had only made the human stronger in the eyes of others. He had underestimated him completely. By evening, Jack had completed his rounds, repairing small issues across the hotel. He returned to the docking bay, checking the ship one more time. The sun, or artificial illumination, reflected off the polished metal of the landing platform, making the ship glint brightly. Cyrix approached hesitantly. "Tell me, human," he said quietly. "How is it that you can fix things so quickly? Machines that are foreign to your species? Systems designed for beings far advanced than yours?" Jack looked at him, calm and steady. "It's not about species. It's about understanding, observing, patience, and care. Anyone can learn it if they try." Cyrix opened his mouth to reply, but no words came. He realized that Jack had not only skill, but a calm intelligence that few aliens seemed to possess. It was a kind of quiet power that did not need to be shouted or shown off. Jack gave a small nod and turned to leave. "I'll be around," he said. "If anything else needs fixing, I'll take care of it." Cyrix watched him walk away. The human's overalls were simple, his hands rough and calloused, and his smile understated, but there was something else, something undeniable. Jack Harris was a human, and he had already proven that humans were more capable than Cyrix or anyone else had expected. By the end of the day, the hotel hummed with smooth operation. Guests floated happily, staff smiled, and the machines functioned without error. And through it all, Jack moved quietly, unassuming yet unmistakably in control. For Cyrix, the day ended in reflection. Mockery had failed. Arrogance had been answered with skill and patience. And one truth had become painfully clear. This human was not ordinary. Jack returned to his quarters that night, tired but satisfied. Tomorrow promised more challenges, but he knew he would meet them as he always had, with calm, skill, and quiet confidence. And in the hotel lobby, Cyrix stared after him, silently wondering if he had finally met someone who could teach him humility. The next morning, the Cosmos Crest Hotel was busier than ever. Guests arrived from distant planets, and the lobby buzzed with conversations in dozens of alien languages. The hotel's elegant elevators, hovering service droids, and energy gates were all functioning perfectly, thanks to Jack's work the previous day. Guests admired the efficiency, though none knew who to credit. Jack moved through the lobby quietly, toolkit in hand. He wasn't here to seek attention. He was here to ensure everything ran smoothly. But today, he would face a challenge unlike any he had encountered so far. It started with a sudden loud alarm. A group of alien dignitaries visiting from a high-ranking planetary council were preparing for a formal gathering in their private suites when the power in the area flickered and died. The lifts stalled mid-air, the doors wouldn't open, and the ambient lights in the hall went out, leaving the guests in a dim, anxious glow. Cyrix's confident smile vanished instantly. His hands flew over his console as he tried to reroute the energy flow, but nothing worked. Panic started to spread among the dignitaries who were not used to any inconvenience. Some floated in frustration, others hissed in irritation, while one alien, a tall, thin species with translucent skin, muttered in alarm about security breaches in the energy matrix. Cyrix's voice was strained. "Calm down, please. Everything will be fixed." But even he didn't sound convinced. Jack arrived on the scene just as a hover lift shuddered and dropped slightly, sending a servant drone spinning into a wall. Guests froze, unsure what to do. Without a word, Jack knelt beside the energy control panel, examining it with his usual calm and precision. Cyrix noticed him and snapped, "Human, this is serious. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Jack looked up calmly. "I handle serious situations every day." "Let me try," Cyrix's pride flared. "You a human? You will only make things worse." Jack ignored the warning and focused on the panel. His hands moved quickly but carefully, analyzing circuits, tracing energy lines, and adjusting relays. Sparks flew briefly, but Jack worked steadily, every movement precise. Within moments, the lights flickered back to life and the lift stabilized. Guests exhaled in relief. The dignitary's expression shifted from panic to amazement. The translucent-skinned alien nodded at Jack, clearly impressed. "You fixed it? All of it?" Jack straightened and smiled politely. Just needed careful observation and proper adjustments. Cyrix, meanwhile, could barely contain his frustration. His scales shimmered nervously. He had thought the human would struggle, fail, or at least hesitate. But Jack had not only kept his composure, he had restored order faster than Xyrix himself could manage. "What are you?" Xyrix demanded, his voice low. "How can you do things that even the hotel engineers cannot?" Jack didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved to check the dignitaries' private suites. The doors powered by advanced energy fields had become unresponsive. With a few careful tweaks, he realigned the power conduits and the doors opened smoothly. The dignitaries stepped inside, their expressions shifting from suspicion to wonder. "Remarkable," said one. "This human, he understands systems far beyond what we expected." Xyrix glared, barely able to speak. He had intended to mock Jack, but now the attention was all on the human. He tried to mask his embarrassment, but every alien in the area had noticed who had saved the day. Jack continued calmly, moving from room to room. In each, he fixed minor malfunctions: hover chairs that wouldn't stabilize, energy lamps flickering, and communication panels that were silent. With each task, the guest's admiration grew, and Xyrix's frustration deepened. Finally, Jack returned to the lobby, where Xyrix confronted him again. "Human, I demand to know how you do this. This hotel is vast, full of alien technology, and yet you handle it as if it were a child's toy." Jack smiled faintly. "It's not about size or complexity. It's about understanding and attention. Any machine, any system will respond if you treat it with care and knowledge." Xyrix shook his head. "No human could possibly know so much." Jack looked him in the eye. "I am a human, and humans learn. We adapt, we observe, we solve problems." There was silence. Guests watched the exchange, whispers spreading through the lobby. Xyrix felt smaller, though he loathed to admit it. Jack's calm authority had earned him respect that no words could undo. Just as Xyrix opened his mouth to argue further, another crisis arose. The main energy conduit feeding the hotel's central systems began to overload. Sparks shooting out from the conduit like fireworks. The lights flickered dangerously and alarms blared throughout the building. Guests panicked and staff rushed to respond, but it was clear that this was a situation beyond ordinary repair. Jack didn't hesitate. He moved to the conduit, kneeling beside it and studying the complex energy flow. His hands moved over the controls, adjusting safety valves, stabilizing energy circuits, and rerouting power temporarily to prevent a catastrophic failure. Xyrix watched, speechless. He had never seen anyone act with such confidence under pressure. His own fingers trembled over the console as he tried to assist, but Jack's calm and skill overshadowed him completely. Within moments, the alarms ceased, the sparks disappeared, and the lights returned to a steady glow. The hotel's systems were stable once again. Guests cheered quietly, grateful for the sudden resolution. Even the dignitaries were impressed, nodding respectfully. Xyrix's face had turned a deep shade of crimson. How did you do that?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Jack looked at him, still calm. "By understanding what was wrong and taking careful action to fix it. Panic never helps. Knowledge does." For the first time, Xyrix realized something important. This human was not just skilled, he was extraordinary. And worse, Xyrix understood that mocking him had only highlighted the human's abilities. The rest of the day passed with a quiet respect for Jack. Guests whispered about the human who had saved the hotel's operations. Staff began to follow him, eager to learn from his methods. Even Xyrix, though still arrogant, found himself watching Jack closely, taking mental notes despite his pride. By evening, the hotel had settled into smooth operation. The dignitaries were content, the guests were relaxed, and the staff were grateful. Jack returned to the docking bay, checking on his ship briefly before heading to the lobby to observe the hotel quietly. Xyrix approached cautiously. "Human, you handled every problem today," he said. "Everything I tried failed, and yet you succeeded." Jack nodded politely. "Every problem has a solution. You just need to find it." Xyrix hesitated, then asked almost reluctantly, Are you always like this?" Jack smiled faintly. "When I see something that needs fixing, I act. Calmly, patiently, efficiently. That's all." Xyrix sighed, unable to meet Jack's calm gaze. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own arrogance. He had assumed a human could not measure up to the technology and complexity of the Cosmos Crest, and yet Jack had proven otherwise. By the time night fell, the lobby was quiet. Guests had retired to their rooms, staff had completed their final checks, and Jack returned to his quarters to prepare for the next day. The hotel ran perfectly, but more importantly, he had demonstrated something far greater than skill. Humans could remain calm, capable and respectful even under immense pressure. Xyrix, on the other hand, stayed in the lobby staring at the empty space where Jack had been. The human's quiet confidence and brilliant performance had left an impression he could not ignore. A part of him wanted to dismiss it, but another, deeper part knew he had encountered someone truly remarkable. And Jack, unaware of the change in Xyrix's perception, prepared for the challenges that tomorrow would bring. Because in a hotel filled with advanced alien technology, complex systems and high-ranking guests, one human's calm ingenuity had already proven that appearances could be deceiving, and that humans were far more capable than anyone in the galaxy had believed. The Cosmos Crest Hotel sparkled under the twin moons of the orbiting star system. Its towers reflected the soft light, painting the entire cityscape in hues of gold and violet. Inside, the lobby buzzed quietly, but the air was thick with anticipation. Guests were preparing for the evening's grand gala, a formal event attended by dignitaries from multiple systems. Everything had to be perfect. Jack Harris walked through the lobby carrying his toolkit. Despite the grandeur around him, he moved with the same quiet confidence as always. He had spent the day ensuring that every system, from hover lifts to energy gates, from service drones to ambient lighting, worked flawlessly. And thanks to his efforts, the gala promised to be a flawless event. Xyrix, the alien receptionist, paced near the front desk. His scales shimmered nervously under the bright lobby lights. For days he had tried to belittle the human, but Jack's quiet efficiency had earned him the admiration of both staff and guests. Xyrix's pride had taken repeated blows, and today he felt a strange tension in the pit of his stomach. "Human," Xyrix called out, trying to sound authoritative. "I need to know something. How is it that you handle everything with such ease? Machines designed for the most advanced species, systems that even my engineers struggle with. How do you do it?" Jack paused, looking at him with calm eyes. "I fix what needs fixing. I pay attention and I use my knowledge. That's all there is to it." Xyrix shook his head, exasperated. "No, that's impossible. There is more to this than you are letting on." "Who are you really?" Jack smiled faintly. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved on, checking the ambient lighting and the climate controls for the gala hall. Everything was perfect down to the smallest detail. Guests who passed him whispered quietly, marveling at the human who seemed to have an instinctive understanding of advanced alien technology. The gala began, and the lobby was soon filled with elegantly dressed aliens. Crystal-like gowns shimmered, mechanical wings flapped gently, and floating orbs of light danced among the crowd. Xyrix stood at the reception desk, greeting guests and trying to maintain his composure. He noticed, however, that every time Jack moved through the crowd, heads turned, and whispers followed him. Jack remained humble, offering polite nods to those who acknowledged him, never drawing attention to himself. Yet there was an undeniable aura around him, a combination of competence, confidence, and calm that made others naturally respect him. Midway through the gala, a distinguished guest, a tall alien with a translucent head and glowing veins, approached Xyrix. "Excuse me," the guest said, voice melodic and formal. "I heard that the individual who fixed the hotel systems yesterday is a human. Is that true?" Xyrix's heart skipped a beat. He forced a smile. Yes, he is a human, but he is only a mechanic, a visitor here." The guest raised an eyebrow. "A mechanic? Who handled issues that even your top engineers could not? Surely you exaggerate." Before Xyrix could respond, Jack stepped forward. He spoke quietly, calmly, as if stating a simple fact. "I am not exaggerating. I handled only what needed attention." The guest looked at him closely. "Remarkable, and who do you represent?" Jack paused, then with a polite smile said, "I am Jack Harris. I own this hotel." A hush fell over the gala hall. Conversations stopped. Guests stared in shock. Some froze completely, unable to comprehend the statement. Xyrix's eyes widened. "Own the hotel?" he stammered. "Yes," Jack said quietly but firmly. "I am the owner, and as the owner, I care that everything runs smoothly. That includes the guests, the staff, and the machines that keep this place functioning." Xyrix's scales shimmered violently. He had spent days mocking this human, treating him as insignificant, and now the truth was revealed. The human was far more powerful and influential than he could ever imagine. Some guests whispered excitedly. "He is the owner," one said. "The very human we thought was insignificant owns the entire hotel." Others nodded. "It explains everything. How the systems were repaired, how everything ran perfectly. It was him all along." Xyrix's mind raced. He had been so sure of his superiority, so confident in his knowledge of the hotel and its technology, and yet he had been utterly wrong. For the first time he felt humility, a strange and uncomfortable feeling for someone who had always relied on arrogance and charm. Jack continued speaking, his voice calm and respectful. "I understand that some of you may have been surprised by my abilities, but I believe that anyone, regardless of species, can learn and grow. Respect, patience, and observation are more valuable than arrogance or mockery." Xyrix swallowed hard. He could feel the eyes of every guest on him. The receptionist who had tried to belittle a human now realized that his actions had been foolish. He had misjudged someone who possessed not just skill but wisdom, calmness, and authority. I apologize," Xyrix said finally, his voice low but sincere. I misjudged you, Jack Harris. I mocked you unfairly." Jack smiled politely. "Apology accepted. We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." The guests nodded in approval. Xyrix's confession, paired with Jack's humility, created a profound moment in the hotel's history. Humans, once underestimated across the galaxy, were proving themselves as capable, intelligent, and remarkable beings. Throughout the gala, Jack walked among the guests, checking small details quietly. The lighting, temperature, and food service all ran flawlessly, yet at the same time, he had made an impression far greater than his technical skill. He had shown that humans could combine intelligence, patience, and leadership in a way that even advanced alien species admired. Later, in a quieter corner of the lobby, Xyrix approached Jack again. I never expected this," he admitted. "I mocked you, and yet you are the owner. Not just a mechanic, but the owner of the entire hotel. How is that possible?" Jack chuckled softly. "Ownership isn't about showing off or asserting authority. It's about responsibility. I care about this hotel, its staff, and its guests. I act because it is the right thing to do. The rest follows naturally." Xyrix nodded slowly. He had never heard such calm wisdom from anyone, let alone a human. I understand now," he said. "I have much to learn," Jack smiled. "We all do. Every day we learn something new. Even me." By the end of the gala, the hotel was running smoother than ever, and the guests had left with admiration for both the facility and its remarkable human owner. Xyrix, humbled, began reflecting on his behavior. Mockery, arrogance, and pride had blinded him. Patience, knowledge, and humility had revealed the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Jack returned to his quarters that night, quietly reflecting on the day. He had not sought recognition, nor had he flaunted his authority. Yet through calm competence and quiet leadership, he had earned respect, restored order, and taught a valuable lesson to both guests and staff. Xyrix, however, remained in the lobby, still processing the revelation. The human he had mocked was far more than he appeared, skillful, intelligent, and wise. And perhaps most importantly, he was human, reminding the galaxy that appearances could be deceiving, and that true power often lay hidden in humility and action. As the stars shone outside the hotel windows, a quiet sense of respect settled over the lobby. Jack Harris had shown the galaxy, and Xyrix in particular, that humans, though underestimated, could achieve greatness quietly, patiently, and effectively. And for Xyrix, that night marked a turning point. He would never see humans the same way again. The morning sun, or artificial twin sun illumination, cast a warm glow across the Cosmos Crest Hotel. Guests stirred in their rooms. Staff began preparing for another busy day, and the lobby hummed with quiet energy. But the atmosphere was different now. There was a new sense of respect lingering in the air, a silent acknowledgement of something remarkable that had unfolded the day before. Jack Harris walked through the lobby, carrying his toolkit as always. He was dressed simply in his familiar overalls, hands still slightly smudged with grease from earlier checks. But today there was a subtle shift in how the hotel's staff and guests regarded him. Whispers followed his path, not of mockery or disbelief, but of admiration and curiosity. Even Xyrix, the once proud alien receptionist, stood near the front desk, observing Jack carefully. His scales shimmered softly, a sign of his internal reflection. For days he had tried to mock and belittle this human mechanic, only to realize that Jack was far more capable, wise and composed than any of the alien species he had encountered. Now he was learning humility in a way that no lecture or punishment could teach. "Good morning, human," Xyrix said cautiously, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. Jack smiled politely. "Good morning, Xyrix. How are the preparations going?" Xyrix hesitated, then said, "Better, thanks to you. I admit I didn't understand humans before, but now I see that I have much to learn." Jack nodded. "We all have something to learn every day. I've learned plenty from working alongside your technology and observing your guests." The two shared a quiet moment of understanding. Xyrix's attitude had changed, not out of fear or obligation, but out of genuine respect. He had realized that humans, though appearing ordinary, carried a quiet brilliance that could not be underestimated. Jack began moving through the lobby, checking small systems, the service drones, the energy gates, and the ambient lighting. Each adjustment was made with the same careful attention he had shown from the very first day. But now, the staff watched with admiration rather than expectation. They had seen him in action before, and they knew that his skill was extraordinary. As Jack worked, a group of guests approached, curious about the human they had heard so much about. One was a tall alien with reflective wings, and another had 6 eyes that blinked in rapid sequence. "You are Jack Harris?" the winged alien asked. "The one who owns this hotel?" Jack nodded calmly. "Yes, I own it, and I make sure it functions well for everyone." The guest's eyes widened. "Remarkable," said the 6-eyed alien. "Not only do you own the hotel, but you understand its systems better than many engineers of our species." How is that possible?" Jack smiled lightly. "It's not about species. It's about paying attention, learning, and working carefully. Anyone can improve themselves if they try." Xyrix watched this exchange, silently reflecting on his own behavior. He had mocked Jack, assuming that a human could not compare to alien intellect or technology. But he had been wrong. Humility replaced arrogance, and he felt a strange sense of gratitude toward Jack for teaching him that lesson, without ever raising his voice. Later, the hotel experienced a minor issue, a malfunctioning hover lift near the upper floors. Jack moved quickly, inspecting the circuits and making precise adjustments. Within minutes, it was operating smoothly again. Staff members watched, impressed by the speed and efficiency with which he worked. A young alien staff member, floating nearby with multiple arms carrying cleaning tools, whispered to a colleague, "I've never seen anyone do this so effortlessly." "He's incredible," the colleague nodded. "And he's human." "Can you believe it?" "All this time we underestimated them." Xyrix overheard the comment and felt a mixture of humility and inspiration. He approached Jack quietly. I would like to learn from you," he said. "Teach me how you manage systems, how you think, and how you approach problems." Jack smiled warmly. "Of course. I can show you techniques, but remember, it's about patience and observation. That's what makes the difference." For the first time, Xyrix felt genuinely eager to learn, not to assert superiority. Jack's humility and approach to problem-solving had transformed the receptionist from a figure of arrogance to a student willing to improve. The day continued smoothly. Guests admired the hotel's flawless operations, and staff moved with confidence, now guided by Jack's quiet example. Throughout the day, small issues arose: drones that needed realignment, gates that required recalibration, but Jack addressed each one calmly and efficiently. Every task he completed left a sense of assurance among those around him. The hotel was in good hands. By late afternoon, Jack decided to inspect his personal spacecraft, docked safely in the hotel's hangar. He made a few minor adjustments, tightened a few bolts, and checked the energy core. Everything was in perfect order. As he worked, Xyrix watched from the doorway, absorbing every movement and every decision. "You know," Xyrix said carefully, "I never imagined I could respect a human so much. Your skill, your calmness, it's extraordinary." Jack looked up, smiling politely. "Thank you, Xyrix. It's not about proving anything. It's about doing your best and helping others. That's all." The receptionist nodded slowly, understanding at last that respect and humility carried more power than arrogance and mockery. He realized that humans could inspire through action, not by boasting or seeking recognition. Later that evening, the hotel staff held a small gathering in the lounge to honor the smooth operations of the day. Guests and staff alike shared stories of how Jack had quietly solved every problem that arose. Xyrix stood among them, listening carefully, and realized that he had learned the most valuable lesson. Humans, often underestimated, possessed a unique combination of intelligence, skill, and patience that could overcome even the most complex challenges. Jack moved through the gathering, quietly interacting with guests and staff. His presence was calm, unassuming, yet commanding respect naturally. Aliens whispered admiringly about the human who had not only saved the hotel multiple times, but had done so with grace and humility. One of the guests, an elder alien with golden feathers, approached Jack. "You are a remarkable being," the elder said. "Not only capable, but wise. Humans may be young in the galaxy, but clearly, they are a species to be respected." Jack nodded. "Thank you. Humans have much to learn, as do all species. But we can also surprise the galaxy with what we can achieve." As the gathering came to an end, Xyrix finally approached Jack alone. "I want to apologize again," he said sincerely, "for mocking you, for underestimating you, for thinking humans were lesser. You've shown me something I will never forget." Jack smiled gently. "Apology accepted. It's not about past mistakes. It's about what we do next, and I hope we can work together from now on." Xyrix nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect. He realized that the human had done more than manage systems. He had taught humility, patience, and true competence. For Xyrix, the lesson was unforgettable. As night fell over the hotel, Jack walked quietly through the lobby one last time. Guests had retired, staff were completing their rounds, and the hotel gleamed under the soft glow of its energy lights. The silence was peaceful, but it held a sense of accomplishment. The hotel was running perfectly, not because of technology alone, but because of the human who understood it and the way he inspired those around him. Jack paused at the entrance to the docking bay, looking out at his spacecraft. He smiled faintly, thinking about the journey so far. Humanity had often been underestimated even across the galaxy. But through ingenuity, patience, and quiet determination, humans had proven time and again that they were capable of remarkable things. Xyrix, watching from the doorway, reflected on the events of the past days. He had mocked, doubted, and dismissed Jack Harris, only to learn that humans were not to be underestimated. Their quiet competence, resilience, and wisdom could surpass arrogance and technology, no matter how advanced. The receptionist's pride had been replaced with admiration, and a new determination had taken root: to learn, to improve, and to respect those who deserved it. Jack Harris, the humble mechanic and hotel owner, had changed not just the hotel's operations but the perspectives of everyone around him. And in that moment, the Cosmos Crest Hotel stood as a testament to human ingenuity. Quiet, unassuming, and yet undeniably powerful, humans, once underestimated, had proven themselves to be a force of intelligence, skill, and humility that even the most advanced species could not ignore. Jack smiled softly, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, and he would meet them, as always, with calm determination, careful observation, and the quiet confidence that had already earned him the respect of a galaxy. The hotel was not just a place of luxury and advanced technology. It was a place where humans, through action and humility, could inspire all who came through its doors. And Jack Harris, unassuming yet extraordinary, had done just that.